Hello everybody, it is Sukasa, and welcome back to Sins of a Solar Empire Rebellion. That's right, due to popular demand, we are back with my tutorial walkthrough of Sins Rebellion. I'm pleasantly surprised to find that you guys really liked the video. It's turned out to be like my most popular non-miasma video, and thank you all for that. It was really just meant for a friend of mine to give him a hand on being more efficient and getting started whenever we do multiplayer games together. But you guys loved it. I had many posts, comment section asking for more videos, so here it is. We're picking back up. Well, not actually picking back up at that map because a few days ago the 1.5 update was released, and Steam being Steam, it forced me to update. And I lost all of my save files. A lot of times with strategy games, and especially Sins, whenever there's a big update, all of your save files are broken. You can't load them anymore. So I lost all of those, and I lost my tutorial map, which is kind of a bummer because it was a good map. I had sent scouts out, a couple of jumps out before I started the video to make sure that I had the right mix of planets and features nearby for tutorial reasons on explaining what those are and everything. So I'm a little bummed about losing that, but I spent quite a while actually loading up different maps, trying to find a good starting position that had the right planets nearby, so I can explain the different features, and I think this one is it. So anyway, this time what I'm going to cover is I'm going to try to touch on a few more of the UI elements that I had missed last time that I want to bring up. And I'm also, thankfully I did quick start this time. It's pretty much progress-wise, just about back to where I was. I would recommend, I think by default it starts out as a quick start. It has your resource extractors and all that already built up, so you can zoom past that bit. I'm going to talk about the more advanced UI elements, and I'm going to show you how to build a fleet, a proper fleet, not just a gaggle of ships. And I'm going to show you some more of the advanced features of fleets and controlling them, customizing them, and some more tips and tricks that I've picked up over the many years I've been playing the Sen series, and hopefully help you guys out with that. And then I got this planned out, guys. I spent quite a while planning this. Next episode, we're going to talk about colonizing new planets, developing them, and upgrading them. I'm going to talk about building stuff at them, and I'm going to cover the different planet types and what their bonuses are. That's next episode. And then the next episode after that, we're going to get to the point where we need to start doing some research. And I'm going to exhaustively go through the research window and all the different research topics. Well, not all of them, but the big ones. Because really, research is extremely important in this game. Is probably the most important part of the game, aside from sending ships out to fight. And you can't get the good ships to send out to fight until you research them, so yeah, I'm going to devote an entire episode to that. But anyway, let's get started. Quick recap what we talked about last time. I showed you, the camera, how to move it around, how to pause it, hit the actual pause button on your keyboard next to like print screen over there by numlock. It's very useful. Highly recommend doing that. Get going to figure out the game so it doesn't get ahead of you. We also talked about, I mentioned, building stuff like extractors and placement of that. I'm going to cover that more of that next episode. I mentioned the phase lanes, how they connect and how you can move around these gray lines. And I showed you what you need to do to hit the ground running and what you need to do right off the bat. So we're gonna redo that because of the new map. On the quick start, you do start out with 2 scout ships, so go ahead and select that like I showed you last time by clicking on it or dragging around it. And set them to a hotkey group. I used 7 through 9, so I'm going to hold control and hit 7. That guy, I'll do 8. And there we go. Now I'll click 7, send him up that way. Click 8, send him over there. And first up, big important, need to get your Con battlecruiser up and going, or its equivalent for the other races that can do Colonize. Get that going. Like I said, it only takes your fleet supply and capital ship supply. It doesn't take any resources, so you definitely want to get that up and going right off the bat. and set it to build 8 frigates. Whoops, misclick. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. And if you do misclick something, you just hit right click and it will de-do that. Right click and gets rid of that. So that's something to keep in mind too. Alright, so 8 of your frigates, and that will take all of your fleet supply except for just enough to build a colony ship, which we will cover shortly. I think I mentioned last time there are some drawbacks to it, but there are some benefits, and I do want to build one, just not at this second, because resources wise. Anyway, so unpause it, and there we go. That's what you do right off the bat. 8 frigates, get the con battle cruiser, colonizing capital ship, and get your scouts out and going and checking out the area. Another feature that I didn't cover last time that should be mentioned right now is the rally point. If you've played strategy games, RTSs before, you probably know about the rally points. It works just like in Command and Conquer or anything like that. If you're unfamiliar with what a rally point is, whenever a unit gets done constructing, it will just sit. It'll move right outside of wherever it's built, just sit there. With a rally point, you can set it to move to a specific spot once it gets done building and group up somewhere else. And how we do that in this game is just click on the planet or click directly on the factories. And right here, this little button will show up, or I guess it's on the bottom if you click directly on the factory. It's called Set Rally Point, and it looks kind of like a yellow circle. And then you just click that, and then you can then place it anywhere within the gravity well of the planet. And it will give you that little icon there, meaning that's where it's set to, and anything that's built at this planet will head to that spot and group up there. Now, a really cool feature that you might not know about the rally point is you don't have to set it to be at the gravity well of this planet. In fact, you could set it to rally at a different planet altogether. And you can see that gold line means they will travel from the planet they're made at to the one you set it to, which is really nifty. Say this planet up here, say I own it, and some enemies jump into it, but I don't have any ships nearby. I can build some ships back here at my home planet and send them automatically to my other planet, and they'll just start streaming in as soon as they're built and engage in the fight. So that can be really helpful. Say I have a very small fleet there, and I need some more ships, but I don't have a frigate factory at that place. I can send them in from the planet nearby. It's a pretty neat little feature. But I'm just gonna have them group up here at this northern, I guess you would say, end of the gravity well. And as they accumulate, you can see that yellow
got a job for me?
Green line means they will head right to the rally point. Now, some more of the UI elements that I didn't cover last time that I want to talk about are some really stupid and useless buttons that I would recommend you don't hit. Up here at the top next to menu, these 2 buttons, they will just mess up your camera. Don't click them. And another one that you may have run into before, if, like I said in the last episode, you want to place your civic buildings, like your research stations, tactically. You want to set them back away from the edge so you can put defensive structures between where ships would be jumping in and them. You want to put some mines up here, you want to put some defense platforms and whatnot, so that way they have to go through a gauntlet of stuff before they blow up your important buildings. Now, with that in mind, if you're clicking on a building to build it and it's not putting it where you are clicking to tell it to, and it's just randomly getting placed somewhere, this button right here is the culprit. It's right next to the very important buildings like develop planet building stuff and the build buildings button, you should say. It's right next to those, so you might have accidentally hit it. It's the auto-place structures. This is the bane of my existence. It took me forever to figure out what was going wrong the first time I did this. You want to make sure that says status off. If it says status on, if you've accidentally clicked it, this is what will happen. Whenever you go to place a structure, you click on it, and boom! It automatically placed it right here. In a really stupid spot, because that's right along the edge. There's no room now to put defensive structures between the edge of the map and it. So yeah, that's a really stupid button that I wish was not right there. So if that does happen to you, just click status off, and if you don't like where a building is placed, you can fix that. And now I'm gonna talk about that. There is a function called scuttle, and you can scuttle anything really, anything that's been built, like a ship. Let's say you want to build a cruiser that requires 10 fleet supply, but you've only got 6 left, and you have a ship here that I guess you don't really need. You can scuttle that ship, get your fleet supply back, as well as a small amount of resources that it costs. That also works for buildings. You can scuttle a building that you placed and you don't like the position of it. And how you do this is, it's right down here at the edge of the screen, and you can see that. It's called toggle scuttle. It's right beneath this little picture window. And whenever you click on this, it will, if you're scuttling a ship or a building that's already been finished building, it will give you a countdown that will show up right here, and it'll say scuttling in 30 seconds. And if you hit it by accident, you can cancel that just by clicking the button again. If you're scuttling a building like this one that hasn't been finished building, as you can see, it's got 0 hull out of 4,500. That means it's not built, obviously. If you click it then, it just automatically disappears, and you get your full amount of resources back. I got all 750 credits and all the metal and all the crystal back. 100% refund because it wasn't finished building. If I were to blow up and scuttle my capital ship factory, it's only going to give me like a third of those resources back. Same with the ship, it's only going to give you like a third of those resources back, so that's something to keep in mind. Oops. What else? Ah, yes. One last button here on your UI that I want to talk about is the one right below the autoplace. It's called ping. It's the circle button. In single player, it's not that useful because what this does is you can click it and then click a spot like your home planet, and it flashes on your screen. But what it really does is it notifies your ally that, hey, I need some help here at this spot. It gives them an audible and a visual notification of it. But it's really best for multiplayer. If you're playing with your friend, you can let him know that, hey, I need some help here because this pirate fleet jumped in or whatnot. When you're playing with the AI, they're, in this situation, they're over here in a different star system altogether. They're not going to be able to come help me, especially early on. And a lot of times they just ignore you. I mean, I can't blame them. I ignore them almost all the time anyway, so mainly used for multiplayer. The other thing, though, that besides saying ally requests help, besides just that audio warning, it also puts a notification in the notification bar for them over here. Now, this is a really cool feature that you might have overlooked. Anytime an event happens, like whenever the voiceover guy says, new planet scouted, or enemy ships incoming, any sort of event like that shows up over here in the notification window. And it's got the little picture, and you can scroll through them by left-clicking to go forward, or like any other menu, you can right-click to go backwards. The cool thing is, once you click on it to highlight it, then you can see new planet discovered Bellerophon. Actually, on the map, it's glowing blue with that little yellow outline, so you can visibly see where that event is. Now, one of the things about this game is it's a massive scale. I mean, once I explore this one star system, stuff like that's not going to be on your visual screen, and especially not if you're like zoomed out over here looking in a different star system altogether. Now, the cool thing about this feature is if you're looking somewhere else and you can't see it, once you click on it and highlight it, then you can hit the spacebar button. Boom, zooms your camera right to that location. Very, very helpful for later on whenever the voiceover guy says, enemy ships incoming. Well, he just says incoming. He doesn't say incoming to Bellerophon. So if you want to find out where those enemy ships are incoming to, you just left-click to select the event over here in the threat report, and then hit spacebar, and boom, it'll zoom your camera right to those enemy ships. So very, very useful and good to keep in mind. What else? Let me unpause it and get this going. How are my ships building? About half done. Okay.
Scouts have found a colonizable planet.
Awesome.
What do you need to know?
Keep up on these guys. Because your scout ships, once you send them to a planet, That's it. They just sit there like big dum-dums, and these pirates will proceed to blow them up. So you really have to stay on top of things. And whenever you hear that, new planet discovered, hit your number 7, number 8, whatever you set it to, double tap it to zoom to it, and get him moving along to the next place. Because he will get blown up.
I'm already there.
There we go. Alright.
How can I be of service?
Excellent. Excellent. The capital ship is finished building. And now we're going to talk about capital ships for a little bit. I'm going to go through pretty extensively all the different features of a capital ship and what you need to do with one as soon as you get it built. So, as you can see, once you get it selected, and the mouse over, unlike a normal ship where it doesn't have anything else but its hull and shields, when you mouse over these capital ships, it's got a big number next to the side of it, a big number 1. What that means is that's its rank. Capital ships go up in rank, unlike regular ships, as they fight, as they do actions and blow up other ships, blow up buildings. Every time they do that, they accrue experience points. As you can see in the mouse over, obviously I haven't done anything, so it's 0 out of 200. Once I gain 200 XP, it will upgrade and level up to level 2, and that big number over there will be a 2 instead of a 1. Now, what this means in practice is you gain new abilities, new bonuses, and so on and so forth. For the Econ Battlecruiser, as I said before, it gets the Colonize ability, and as a brand new ship, you start with 1 ability point that you get to spend. So as soon as you build it, don't forget about this. Click the ability management window right here, this star with a blue background, and the number 1, meaning it's got 1 ability point to spend. Click on that, and that will pull up the different abilities you have. You start with access to 3 of them. The 4th one you can't buy until your ship levels up to rank 6. So it's normally a very powerful skill, and in this case it's a really awesome skill that I'll talk about later, but you can't buy that until you're level 6. So you get to pick from one of these 3. Obviously, the entire reason we built the Econ over other ships is for its Colonize ability, so I'm going to select that right now, just by left-clicking it. And most of the time, whenever you build, or rather, whenever you buy an ability, it's going to be set to auto-use. Auto-cast, it's called. Whenever you mouse over it, you can see auto-cast is green enabled. For a lot of abilities, I don't like to have that set because it'll automatically do the thing whenever it's able to. Now, all of your skills that you can use on your capital ship, they consume what's called antimatter. It's this blue pool down here below your hull and shield. Antimatter is consumed for pretty much every action you use. Jumping in and out of a star, or jumping in and out of a planet, every time you use an ability, it all consumes antimatter. So if you have it set to automatically colonize something, whenever it gets within the range of the planet, the range of the ability being that purple line, it's going to do that, and it's going to cost 90 antimatter. So if you're low on antimatter, you can't jump out if you're in trouble, you know? So I like to conserve my antimatter and keep a close eye on that, because I really, really hate losing capital ships. If it gets low on hit points, I want to know that I can immediately jump him to safety. So I don't want that antimatter getting too low. Another reason specifically for Colonize is if it gets too close to the planet, it's going to colonize it. If there's a big enemy fleet there, their siege frigates are going to start bombing it, and I'm going to lose the planet immediately and have wasted that antimatter. So yeah, I always turn autocast off for stuff like that. And the way you can do that, you can tell it's on by that little roundy round arrow. Right-click the ability, and the roundy round thing goes away, and it says in the mouse over, autocast disabled. So that's how you turn that off. Another feature with your capital ships that not all capital ships get them right off the bat. Some get the one of them right off the bat. Some don't get any. Some get like 3 or 4. That is squadrons. Now, these are strike craft like fighters and bombers. The call battleship, as I recall, your heavy frontline battleship, it doesn't start with any of them. The Sova carrier, obviously, it's a carrier ship, so it starts with like 3 or 4 of them. And the Akan battlecruiser starts with 1. It starts with the ability to train one. It doesn't automatically start with it. So you have to click in the Squadron Management here and select whether you want a fighter squadron or a bomber squadron. These are pretty powerful little ancillary ships that are launched from your capital ship. Early on, though, the bomber is not as useful because it targets heavy ships, heavy cruisers. It targets other capital ships and structures like frigate factories and defensive platforms. It's powerful against those, but it's not very useful against the weaker ships like light frigates, long-range missile ships, stuff like that. But early on, those are what you're going to be running into, the light frigates and whatnot. So for my first squadron, I always pick fighter. So just left-click that, and it will begin to train up a fighter squadron as indicated by that yellow line. Now, later on, as I gain more XP and my capital ship ranks up, I think when it gets to like rank 4, then I will gain a second squadron to be able to train, and at that point, then I'll pick a bomber. Like I said, not all your capital ships are going to start like that. I think the call battleship doesn't get any squadrons until like level 4, and like I said, obviously the carriers start with a whole bunch of them. But anyway, that's how you do the squadron management and train those up. That's how you get your abilities up and going, and how you disable automatic abilities. The next thing I want to cover real quick in here is there's a secondary way to gain ranks for your capital ship. Yes, you can wait until you get 200 XP, and every time you blow up a ship, I don't know, you gain like 15 or 20 XP, more XP for the tougher the ship. But early on, you can just outright buy ranks. You can buy your first 2 ranks. So I can go from level 1 to level 3 almost immediately by purchasing the next ranks. You do that in the ability management window in here. Click on that, and then this button right down here is called the Purchase Next Level. It will cost 1,250 credits, and it takes 90 seconds. And once it's done with its time, 90-second timer, then it will upgrade my ship from level 1 to level 2 and give me another ability point to spend on my abilities. So that is awesome and very, very useful. I would highly recommend doing this for every capital ship, really. So what I'm going to do here is sell on the black market a little bit of crystal, a little bit of metal, get 1,500 because the second rank costs 1,500. And I'm going to buy that, and then that's it. That will level me up from 1 to 3. You can't purchase any levels beyond that initially. There's a thing in the research I'll talk about later that allows you to purchase up to rank 4. But anyway, for right now, you can only purchase the first 2 ranks and get up to level 3. I would recommend doing that. That'll give you 2 extra ability points to spend on your other skills and rank up stuff. So it costs a little bit of credits, and you have to sell some metal and crystal, but I think it's definitely worth it. Because if I were to just let my XP gain me up to rank 3, I wouldn't be able to buy those 2 ranks anymore. You can only buy rank 2 and rank 3 with it. So it doesn't save till later. Something to keep in mind. Alright, looks like my scouts are getting ready to move on. Let's send him
on my way.
Here.
What do you need to know? On my way.
Alright, all my ships are built, so think here. The next thing I want to talk about is creating an actual fleet. You might be saying, what are you talking about? You already built your fleet. You got a whole bunch of ships right there. That's your fleet. Nope. This is a gaggle of ships. It's just a gaggle. Nothing special. It's not a fleet. A fleet is a specifically created group of ships. And you have to manually create the fleet. How you do this is you just select the ships that you want to be in your fleet by mousing over them like this and letting go, and then it selects those ships. Now, if you notice the little bubble around them, I hope you can see this, is a little bit dull for these 3, and it's really bright for that one. There's a reason for that. is because the primary ship, the, I don't know, flagship of the fleet, is the brighter one. For whatever reason, it sets it to be randomly this stupid Cobalt Light frigate. I don't want that. I want my capital ship to be my primary fleet. So how do we get it to do that? Well, over here in the Empire window that I showed you last episode, it also shows up there. You can see this particular one, this light frigate, is really bright, and the other selected ones are a little bit duller. Now, to switch that, you hit the hotkey Tab, just hit the Tab button, and it will go forward and select the next one. Alternatively, if like this one, if I were to back up one, it would be at the capital ship, which is where I want it to be. To go backwards, you hold Shift and then hit Tab. So Tab for forward, Shift Tab to go backwards, and you can select the primary you want. There's a couple of reasons for this. The primary ship has its abilities show up whenever you select the fleet. Obviously, Cobalt has no abilities right now. You want your capital ship's abilities to show up whenever you select the fleet. The secondary reason is the way that AI manages how the ships fly. They form like a gosh, brain fart, like a special squadron formation around like the formation of the ships flying around. They form around the primary. So you want that to be your big bad capital ship, and you want the littler ships to fall into formation around the big one. There, I finally got that out. Anyway, so that's why you want your capital ship to be the primary. Now, once you have your primary selected, you want to hit down here in the action bar, hit the tactics management window, or what I like to call the God finger, because it looks kind of like in the Sistine Chapel, that Michelangelo painting where God and Adam, or their two fingers are about to touch, and there's a bright light between them. That's what that picture looks like, doesn't it? I mean, anyway, so hit the God finger button. That sends you into the fleet management window, and in here, we can do a bunch of different things, but obviously, the first thing we need to do is create the fleet. So, this one that looks like a formation of different ships, that's the Create Fleet button. What you want to do is just left-click that, and you can see that the Fleet tab, is what I call it, shows up, and that means you've created a fleet with those ships. What we can do with that tab is two different things. You can mouse over it and visually see down in the mouse over in the bottom right what ships make up that fleet, see whether or not you need to add some more ships to it, as well as you can check the status of those ships with their hit points and their shields. The green percentage bar is your hit points, the whole, and the yellow percentage is the shields. So it's useful at a glance to be able to tell the status of your fleet. As well, if you want to select every ship within that fleet, all you have to do is just left click the tab button, or the tab icon. I call it tab, it looks kind of like a soda can tab, but anyway, click that and it selects every ship in the fleet. Now, a couple more things about the fleet management window. Any new ships that are created or built at this planet, they will automatically join this fleet by default. You can turn that off if you don't want more ships joining this fleet. You can turn that off in the Godfinger window. The same button that you used to create the fleet, you can see it's got the little roundy round icon. That means that ships are automatically joining this fleet. You can just right click that, turn the little roundy round off, and that means new ships will not automatically join. But I'm going to leave that turned on for now. And if by chance you want to disband the fleet, you click this button here, and it's the Leave Fleet button. A couple of the other more advanced things here, we have the white flag, which is the retreat button. Let's say you jump into an enemy gravity well and things start to go badly, and you want to get everyone in that fleet out immediately. All you have to do is come in here, click that white flag. They will all stop what they're doing and head to the edge of the gravity well and jump out back to friendly space. Some of the more important features here are the fleet behavior fleet behavior icons, basically. The AI automatically controls your fleet for the most part. It it determines how far away your ships fly from the primary, well, like I was talking about earlier, and you can change that. By default, it's set to standard. You could left click to go to loose, and these ships are going to fly a little bit farther away from your primary. Left click again, and it will set to tight, and they will tighten up formation, get closer to your primary ship. I normally don't mess with that, but you can if you want to. It could come in handy, like avoiding mines or something like that. Spread your ships out so if a mine gets detonated, it doesn't damage a whole bunch of ships at once. It can be useful in that situation. I don't personally use it all that much, but you might find use of it. The next button that I use a heck of a lot is the engagement range. I highly recommend you remember to use this button. By default, it is set to engage anything within the gravity well of the planet it's at. So let's say an enemy ship jumps in over here, at this corner of the map, and your fleet is up here. If it's an enemy ship, they will immediately head straight for it and start attacking it, because the engagement range is set to gravity well, anything within the gravity well. If you don't want it to do that, there's a lot of reasons why you might not want it to. You can change that by left or right clicking it, and it will left click it to go to hold position. That means the fleet will not move at all by itself. That's very, very important to do. And let me give you some examples. Let's say you jump into an enemy gravity well, right? You jump in up here. The enemy fleet is down here, but there's a bunch of defensive structures between you and the enemy fleet, like maybe a star base, a big minefield, some defense platforms. You don't want your ships just automatically heading straight across all those defenses, getting torn up without you telling them to do so. So it's very important to use that hold position, so that way they will only move if you tell them to. The other thing you can do, click it again, and it will change to local area. That means anything that gets right up next to it, it will automatically attack. It won't cross all the way across the gravity well to attack it, though. Only stuff right close to it. So, those are the 3 different engagement ranges, and very, very useful, particularly when you're jumping into entrenched enemy territory. Keep that in mind. So, yep, that's how you create a fleet. Some of the more advanced functions of fleets. The one last thing about fleets that I want to cover is their jump prep. Basically, if you were to just select your fleet and tell it to jump to this planet, they're going to individually spool up their FTLs and jump one at a time to the place you told them to move to, which is an excellent thing to do if you're trying to get away quickly, trying to flee a fight, or trying to chase someone down. You want to get there quick. Just by default, it sets to jump one at a time. But that could get you into a lot of trouble later on when, as I said before, if you run up against an enemy planet that is very entrenched with defenses, or a big fleet there, you do not want to jump in willy-nilly one ship at a time into a big fleet of enemy or a bunch of defensive structures. You're going to get torn up and lose half your fleet before your capital ships even get there, because your capital ships take a little bit longer to spool up. So the way around that is this arrow down here. It's the move icon. By left-clicking this, you can set it to sorry, not left click, right click. Right click that button, and it will set them to group all. If they're grouped all, that means whenever you tell them to jump to the next star or to the next planet, they will all set at the edge and spool up their FTLs together until the slowest ship is ready to jump. Then once that happens, all of them move together at once, so your entire force reaches the enemy planet all together, all at once. Very, very useful for big battles later on. But, again, that could get you in trouble if that big battle starts to go badly for you and you tell them to leave, and you just right-click to back out a planet. They're going to sit at the edge and wait for everyone to spool up and then jump all together. That could, again, get half your ships blown up. So once you jump in, you got to remember to right-click that icon again, so it's only got the 1 icon instead of the 3. That way they'll all retreat, one at a time and get out as quickly as possible. So, that is the main overview of fleets, how you create a fleet, how you change fleet behavior, and some of the more important advanced features of fleets that you need to know. All right. How are my scouts doing here? Long. All right. I think that just about covers things for this episode. One more thing I want to mention here, though, is the bars around a planet. You can see these bars that show up around planets. Some don't have it, some do. What does that mean? This planet doesn't have any friendly ships at it, and I can't see what's going on there. There's no buildings built at it, so it doesn't have those bars. The bottom bar down here is indicative of buildings built there. As you can see, whenever I mouse over it, it shows you every building that I have built there. That's what the bottom bar does. The bar on the left, whenever you mouse over it, it tells you any friendly ships that are there and what their makeup is. As well, depending on how many ships are there, is going to be how big these little, because my color's yellow, how many little yellow lines there are. So if I had a really big fleet there, these little yellow lines might go halfway down. Might be like 5 or 6 of them. That's very useful if an enemy jumps in. You can then tell how big of an enemy fleet it is at a glance by those bars. And enemy ships show up on the right side here. As you can see, this planet here has both a left and a right. Enemy ships show up on the right. You can see whenever I mouse over the right bar, it shows up as having 2 enemy ships there. And whenever I mouse over the left, it shows as having my scout frigate there. So that way you can tell at a glance what's going on at all the different planets. When you're zoomed out, you can see, oh crap, there's enemies here, my friendly fleet's here, and so on and so forth, and be able to gauge enemy strength at a glance. The other really cool feature about it is if you want to select every ship at a planet at once, just really quickly, and move them from one planet to the next, all you have to do, you don't have to zoom in and select them all. All you have to do is just left click the side over here, boom. Every ship friendly at that planet was just selected, and you can tell them all to move on to this planet here where a big enemy fleet might have just jumped in. So it's a very useful little bit of info to keep in mind. And I think that pretty much covers everything for this episode. It's running a little bit long. Yeah, about a half hour long. I'm trying to keep these episodes about a half hour long, so I'm going to end it here. And in the next episode, we're going to cover the initial strategy of colonization and how you want to go about doing things early on once you get your first little fleet built. There are some tips and tricks I can help you with in strategy-wise. I'm going to talk about those next time. We're going to come capture some of these planets, and I'm going to show you how to upgrade your planets, how to develop them, put buildings at them, and so on and so forth. And we're going to talk a little bit about these different planet types and what that really means. So yep. And then in the episode after that, we're going to get to the part where we need research. So I'll talk about that research window in depth. Yeah. So anyway, this is it for now. I do hope you enjoyed. I hope you found it informative and that you learned something. And if you did enjoy, then don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe for more. Until next time, though, this is Sukasa signing out.